Mr. Chairman, sir, on going through the governor's address, I must confess that I was rather disappointed that this House was given as little information as possible as to the causes of its summons. I venture to think that the policies ought to have been mentioned in this address itself. Then only the suggestions of honorable members of this House can be taken note of before the budget is finalized. But on the other hand, with the majority that the party in power can command, an attempt has been made to deprive those members sitting in the opposition of the only opportunity they may have to influence the government of the day. This is, in my opinion, a serious handicap to the members belonging to the opposition. Sir, in the governor's address, it is stated that the food position is on the whole satisfactory. That statement is not warranted by facts. Today, food production is a central responsibility. If there is any scarcity anywhere, it is only right that the whole country should be treated as one unit and the available food grains distributed to those areas where there is any deficiency. But I am sorry that after so many years of independence, after so many crores of rupees have been spent on large irrigation projects, we are still more or less where we were some years ago, depending upon foreign imports to the tune of several crores of rupees. It is all due to a lack of proper policy on the part of both the central and the state governments, without realizing that they have to control the entire subcontinent. The central government usually lay down laws which cannot be followed in their entirely. Let me give you some examples. One is the legislation regarding agricultural lands. I am afraid that all those who own lands are in the state of perpetual tremor as to what will happen the next minute. With the surcharge on land and agricultural income tax, the position of these landlords has become more and more difficult. The tensions between landlords and tenants has considerably increased. The government cannot absolve themselves of the responsibility for such undesirable results. Some years ago, a bill was introduced to the effect that no agricultural land should be encroached upon for building purposes without obtaining the specific permission of the government. Nobody knows that there is such a bill and it is followed more in its breach. You will see the result of this as you drive down to the aerodrome. Not speak of the Mufassil places. There is another thing that I should like to mention. Cash crops are not allowed to be raised. What steps have the government taken to see that these cash crops such as sugarcane are raised only on lands which are not primarily meant for agricultural purposes? Otherwise, a vast extent of agricultural land will be converted into cash crop growing lands, much to the detriment of food production. I am glad and I congratulate the government on having thought of levying the sales tax at a single point instead of the multi-point levy now in force. Sir, I am not one of those who desire that the revenue that has occurred to the government from this tax should be curtailed. There are so many requirements and we are always talking of improvements, but I am for single point tax for this reason. The businessmen have to maintain many records. They have to encourage people to maintain these records. If any slight lapses occurs, they are caught at once and treated as criminals. Single point sales tax is the best in the interests of all concerned and the government will gain a great deal. The government should see that as soon as possible they introduce the system of levying single point sales tax. Sir, I have mentioned before in this house that the annual administration report of most of the department of the government are released 2 or 3 years after the concerned years. Consequent upon the changes that take place in the treasury bench, I feel that these reports lose much of their value on account of their belated publication. I therefore suggest that in the Madras information published by the state every month, some tangible information about what has been achieved and what is contemplated may be given. Let us take, for instance, the community projects. We are told so many lakhs of rupees are spent on them, but there is very little information available about them. I am sure that much useful work is being done, but I would ask them to get all about their work printed, because our friends on this side will then realize that something substantial is being done. I really want that the pamphlet Madras information should be made more informative. Perhaps all our criticisms would have not been necessary if we had been given more information. I would invite the attention of the Honorable, the Leader of the House, to a suggestion. I have felt that the old method of having advisory bodies attached to ministries had a very useful purpose to serve. Government is not the ministry alone, but government is the legislature behind the ministry, and it is a very necessary thing for this government to have advisory bodies of this type. Such advisory bodies are at present constituted in the central government for different purposes, and I feel that it would be very useful if similar advisory bodies are constituted here also. The government can make their own choice of the personnel of these advisory bodies and appoint persons who may not ask for patronage or favor at the hands of the government. What I wish to emphasize is that through these different committees constituted, if possible, from both the houses, the government would be in a better position to tell us what they have to tell us, and let us have an opportunity of saying what we have to say. Our chief object is to see that the government gets an independent point of view placed before them, and I would like to assure the Honorable, the Leader of the House, that it is in the spirit that we are making these suggestions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.